Hello, folks, and welcome back to NL Now on NTV. I am your host, Gary Weaselton. We have a wonderful show lined up for you this morning. On the musical guest set, we have singer-songwriter Brad Tuck to perform a couple songs for us and to chat with me a little later on. And in the interview chair, I have TV producer and writer and chef and comic Andie Bulman. So that'll be a great interview later on in the show. But for now, we're going to kick things off right away with a song. Please welcome Brad Tuck.
Tie me down, oh tie me down. Don't you know I never meant to play around? If you love me, you'll believe me, and I'll go with you now. Well, we got to get together, tie me down. Oh, I've been wheels and I've been rails. I've been dusty roads and grassy wagon trails. But I miss the friends that linger in the streets of my hometown. If you love me, you'll believe me, tie me down. Oh, tie me down, oh, tie me down. Don't you know I never meant to play around? Oh, if you love me, you'll believe me, and I'll go with you now. Well, we got to get together and tie me down. Well, I've known some, yes, more than one. And there's been some things I wish I'd never done. Once they branded me the devil, and I long to be a clown. If you love me, you'll believe me, tie me down. Oh, tie me down, oh, tie me down. Don't you know I never meant to play around? If you love me, you'll believe me, and I'll go with you now. Well, we got to get together, tie me down. And if we swore we'd change no more, well, there'll be nothing that our hearts could be good for. Give this some consideration before you turn around. If you love me, you'll believe me, tie me down. Oh, tie me down, oh, tie me down. Don't you know I never meant to play around? If you love me, you'll believe me, and I'll go with you now. Well, we got to get together, tie me down. Sing it with me now. Oh, tie me down, oh, tie me down. Don't you know I never meant to play around? Oh, if you love me, you'll believe me, and I'll go with you now. Well, we got to get together, tie me down.
Welcome back to NL Now on NTV. Just before the commercial break there, we had a song from today's musical guest, Brad Tuck, who we will see a little more of later on in the show. But joining me here at the interview desk now, I have writer, chef, comic, and now TV producer, Andie Bulman. Andie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me, Gary. It's a pleasure.
Yes, it's great to have you here. So now, for those folks at home watching who might not exactly know who you are, why don't you give us a little introduction to yourself?
Sure, yeah. I am a librarian. I went to school. I have my master's in library studies. Then I retrained as a chef, and I work as a chef, or have worked as a chef. And I'm a writer. I do feature articles for CBC, and I'm the features editor with Riddle Fence magazine. I do stand-up comedy, and I do sketch comedy with a group of girls called Mom's Girls, and we have a show out on Bell 5 called Tales from the Floordrobe. It's a little bit like Wishbone. It's a little bit like the Babysitter's Club. It's basically asking kids to relate to old stories in new ways. And we had a lot of fun making it. And that's basically who I am. Comic, librarian, chef. I love food, I love books, and I love making people laugh.
Yeah, well, that's great. So, like you mentioned, you're one of the 4 members in Mom's Girls, a comedy troupe based here in St. John's. Now, why don't you tell us a little bit about the type of comedy that the 4 of you do and how that group started?
Absolutely. Stephanie Curran, she's a big TikTok star and a writer for the NDP. Shout out to the NDP. Stephanie Curran and Elizabeth Hicks got the idea that they wanted an all-female sketch comedy team. And I'd been doing stand-up comedy for years, and they saw my shows, and they asked me to join with them. And they invited our friend Allison Kelly, who's a really talented actress. So they asked us all to meet, and we didn't really know each other. And on our first meeting, we had so much fun. We laughed so hard. And I basically left being like, I will do whatever it takes to be in this group. We had our first show at Christmas time, and we basically sit down and we write. We write about whatever's funny to us. So for that first Christmas show, we wrote things about, every family has a Christmas village, but what if one of those Christmas village houses was haunted? So we think about absurd situations. We had just watched the movie Cool Runnings, and we thought, let's write a sketch about like kind of a bobsled team, but they're from the ghouls, So, we do stuff like that, or Tessa and Scott. Like, I'm a big Tessa and Scott figure skating fan. So I wrote a sketch that was like, imagine if someone wrote Tessa and Scott fan fiction. So we basically take things that we love and we make it funny, and we have a lot of fun writing together. And I highly recommend people doing it. It's something we never thought about monetizing. It was always just for us to have fun. And I think that's a really great way for something to start, and now it's something that we do make money from. But it started out just something we did, and we took a lot of joy from.
Yeah. So, like you mentioned, you and the other 3 members of Mom's Girls recently produced a TV show called Tales from the Floordrobe. So, why don't you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, Tales from the Floordrobe is a Bell 5 show. Take the Shot Productions graciously gave us their studio to shoot in, which really helped us a lot. Mm-hmm. And the 4 of us play young girls. And every day, one of us has a problem at school. Maybe the teacher didn't let us help set up the chairs or move the chairs because that was the boys' job. And then it reminds one of the other girls of a famous tale like Treasure Island. So we hop into the magical floordrobe, we retell the story or reimagine the story, and then we come out of the floordrobe and we've learned a lesson. So we've done Frankenstein, Athena, Treasure Island, we've done Goldilocks and the Three Bears, we've done Shakespeare, we've done As You Like It. So it's a great way for kids to get familiar, to learn about some of these classic pieces of literature. But also we ask, what's the problem with this piece of literature? Like Treasure Island, there's not a single female character. So we kind of take that and play with it. It's really, really fun.
Yeah, that's great. And now, aside from the Floordrobe, you also have a second show which you host. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that one?
Sure. It's called Is This an Ology? And I play a mad scientist / chef. And I interview different ologists. So an ornithologist, a biologist, a herpetologist. And so we learn what those ologists do. We learn about their science. We learn about sustainability, the environment, global warming, and then we go back into the mad scientist kitchen lab and I make an experiment relating to what we just learned about. So for ornithology, we talked about how actually feeding bread to birds is not very good for birds. There's no nutrients in it, and it just wastes their energy as they try to process it. So we go back to the Mad Scientist Lab, and I show people how to make a treat for birds that will help them get through the winter, but their bodies, it'll actually give them the nutrients they need using peanut butter and different nuts and seeds, and how you can hang it. And so different experiments and crafts like that that you can do alongside me. Yeah, and it's called Is This an Ology? Co-produced with Ruth Lawrence. And I really enjoyed making it. I think I love science, I love nature, and I love trying to explain these things in a way that's fun for kids.
We do have to take a short break here right now, but we will be right back after this. Welcome back to NL Now. I'm here once again with Andie Bulman. Now, of course, you mentioned you're a chef, you love cooking, and I hear that you have your own cookbook coming out soon. So what, I guess, pushed you to make the decision to write this book?
Okay, so I got this book deal through WANL Pitch Wars. So the Writers Alliance of Newfoundland and Labrador does a pitch war every year. So you stand up and you pitch your book, and all the major publishers in Newfoundland are there. Breakwater is there, and Boulder is there, and you have five minutes. It might actually be 1 minute to pitch your book. So I stood up and I pitched my book, and at the time I owned a catering company, and I said, I believe in sustainability and foraging and science. The book will touch on all of that. It'll work with Newfoundland ingredients. I have a background as a librarian, so it'll be well researched. I am a chef, so the recipes will work. Please buy my book. And very luckily, Breakwater Books went for it, and I signed a contract. And that was a really big year for the pitch wars, because actually I think maybe 7 of us pitched, and I think 4 or 5 of us got book deals. So if you get a chance to do the Writers Alliance of Newfoundland Labrador Pitch Wars, do it, because it's a great way to get your book in front of publishers, really memorable for them. Whereas if you just send in a book manuscript, it might sit in a big pile. So if you get a chance to do an in-person pitch, I couldn't recommend it enough. So my book comes out on November 17th. It's called Salt Beef Buckets, A Love Story. It's about folklore and history behind different Newfoundland recipes. I tell the story of, here's cod, and here's why I think hand lining cod is better than using different nets. Or, it gets into a lot of stuff like that. I interview a lot of hunters. I talk about how to hunt sustainably, how to cook a tur. Most people just throw it in the oven until it's incredibly tough. So I'm like, okay, here's how you brine a tur. Here's how you make it taste really good. So I try to get into a lot of information like that.
Yeah. So where can people find your book if they want to buy a copy?
Well, thank you for asking that, because I really would love if people bought it, because I feel very poor right now. So you can buy my book at Chapters. You can buy my book downtown. You can buy it at Outfitters. You'll be able to get it at the Craft Council, the Bee's Knees. You'll be able to find it in most small shops downtown. It will be available through Chapters and Amazon, but I am going to suggest you support a small local store.
Yes.
I really appreciate it. I think you'll be able to buy it at Elaine's downtown, which is a wonderful used bookstore. I think it'll be widely available. But I do support, I would say, if you're going to buy it from a small retailer.
Well, that's great. So now we're going to do a little thing I like to do with all of my guests. It's a little game sort of called Get to Know Me. So I'll ask you 5 questions, and you'll come back with the first thing that pops into your head.
I'm nervous, but okay.
Your favorite color?
Green.
Your favorite thing about living in Newfoundland and Labrador?
The scenery and the East Coast Trail, and just walking over a hill and having your breath taken away by the cliff that you're seeing.
Your favorite thing to do in your spare time?
Honestly, it's pet my dog and tell her she's good. Okay.
Yes. Your favorite song to sing out loud when you're alone in the car?
Oh, it's the Hamilton soundtrack, but I'm really embarrassed by that answer. I wish it was something cool like Tom Waits, but it's Hamilton.
Well, Hamilton is great.
Hamilton is great.
And for the last one, if you had the opportunity to collaborate with any other actor or writer on some sort of piece, who would you pick and why?
I wrote a movie that got picked up for the Picture Start program, and I know he's not going to watch this, but Andie Jones, I would love if you were in my movie. I would do just about anything for you to play the character of Dave, and this is just me saying that out loud on television. I would love to work with Andie Jones. It would be an honor.
Well, Andie Jones is great. We had him on this show a couple of years ago.
How wonderful. That's so nice. I bet he was a wonderful guest.
Yes, he was great, and it's been great having you here as well. So I want to thank you again for taking the time to come on the show this morning.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here, and I just am so excited about this show, and I think it's a great way to promote local artists. So thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you for coming on, and we will be right back, folks, after this quick break with more NL Now, so stay tuned. Welcome back to NL Now. We will have more from Corey Crew coming up in a few minutes, but right now I'm here with Brad Tuck. Thank you so much for coming on the show this morning.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yes, so how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm pretty good.
That's
so
good.
Now I'd like to know a little bit about the song you performed at the top of the show. Could you tell us what that one was all about?
Sure. Actually, that song is pretty new to me. It's an old Ryan's Fancy song.
Right.
And a good buddy of mine, Jacob Lewis, he introduced that song to me about 6 or 7 months ago.
Okay.
So I'm actually working on a new record right now, and me and Jacob put that song together, and we're both going to sing it as a duet on my new record that's due out probably next spring, hopefully.
Oh, that sounds great. Now, Brad, you're also the drummer for Shanny Canuck, and I actually saw you play a couple times with them, of course, and that was great. So what's it like? I know the shows at Shanny Canuck can be very exciting with the crowd and everything, so how do you feel when you absorb the energy from the crowd like that at a live performance?
Oh, there's nothing better than playing in front of a live audience. And unfortunately, with everything happening in the world this past year, we haven't been able to do that very often.
Yes.
But we recently did play 3 sold-out nights at the Bella Vista here in St. John's with the full band and the big system and sold-out crowds, like I said, and it was just fantastic. So hopefully we'll be doing more of that now this fall and into Christmas.
Yes, that'd be great. Now, like I said, drummer in Shanny Canuck, but you're also here today as a solo artist. So what would you say are some of the, I guess, challenges from becoming a solo artist, from working with a bigger group?
Yeah, it's definitely a different approach, I would say. I started out playing guitar, just me and myself and I. You could say back when I was probably 6 or 7 years old.
Yeah.
And then up through high school, I kind of dove into different types of music and whatnot.
Sure.
But it was actually funny timing because I started kind of this solo career as a traditional Newfoundland musician around the exact same time that Chris Andrews of Shannigannock called me and approached me about becoming the drummer. So it all happened about 4 years ago around the same time. So since then, I've kind of been balancing both. But it's definitely a different show, just me and my guitar compared to, playing on the drums for a band like Shannigannock. Yeah.
So now if people want to find out some more information about you or upcoming shows or hear some of your music, where can they do that?
Yeah, so all my music is on Spotify, Apple Music, and all that, all those fine places. I have a website, bradtuckmusic.com, and a Facebook page where I'm very active, Brad Tuck Music, or facebook.com/BradTuckMusic.
Well, that all sounds great, folks. Make sure you go check out Brad as his solo career and also in Shannigannock. Now, what's the song you're going to do for us next?
I'm going to do a song for you now called Rise Up. It's a song I wrote probably 3 or 4 years ago. And it's on my first record, and yeah, I'm going to perform that one for you here now.
That's perfect.
See if we can get you dancing a little bit.
Yes, okay. Folks, please welcome to NL Now with Rise Up, Brad Tuck.
Oh, rise up, and grab another cup. We'll worry about our heads on Sunday morn. The grub was frying, the kids were crying, and all the mess in the kitchen was mine, and long may your big chip draw. Woo! 'Twas at my brother's recommendation I took an invitation. 'Twas a fine accommodation till I barged into the room. I had fostered expectation, put aside my hesitation, so to my reputation 'twas a little 12:30. Oh, rise up, and grab another cup. We'll worry about our heads on Sunday morn. The grub was frying, the kids were crying, and all the mess in the kitchen was mine. And long may your big jib draw. Guests were filled with trepidation, who weren't fond of my infiltration. They began my exportation as the clock rolled over to 9. To the boys at St. John station, I said it's a celebration. I begged for reconciliation, sure, and suddenly things were fine. Oh, rise up, and grab another cup. We'll worry about our heads on Sunday morn. The grub was frying, the kids were crying, and all the mess in the kitchen was mine. And long may your big jib draw. Woo! Oh, well, it took all night to find her, the girl from Fogo Island. I waddled up behind her and I asked her to a dance. Well, she clearly recognized me and told me rather kindly to clear away the mess I made, and maybe I'd have a chance. Oh, rise up, and grab another cup. We'll worry about our heads on Sunday morn. The grub was frying, the kids were crying, and all the mess in the kitchen was mine. And long may your big jib draw. Oh, rise up, and grab another cup. Sing it. We'll worry about our heads on Sunday morn. The grub was frying, the kids were crying, and all the mess in the kitchen was mine. And long may your big jib draw. Woo! There you go. Thanks for having me.
Yes.